Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
To the program, thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. It's hour number 2. Joining us, I want to welcome back to the program. We have Senator Linda Collins-Smith with us. She represents District 19. Senator Linda Collins-Smith, thanks for being back on.
Hey, Paul. I'm proud to be on with you guys today.
Absolutely. So glad that you're here. I wanted to have you on to discuss a couple of things. Most importantly, and we'll get to this here in a minute, but I just want to talk about maybe the tough bills that you have, maybe some of the tougher votes that you've had to make in the last session. But before we maybe get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the Senate Judiciary Committee. This last session, you were the vice chair. And I just would wonder, were there any bills, because I know there were some problems with meeting with that committee later in session. Were there any bills that you really wanted to see go through that Senate Judiciary Committee process, but they weren't allowed to?
To go through, that didn't come out of the committee.
Yeah, that didn't even get heard. Were there any of them that didn't even get heard,
Oh, there were plenty that didn't get heard. It was absolutely frustrating for anyone, of course, that came that had a bill. There were some bills that asked to be, some legislators I know for sure, one that I talked to in the Senate that said he asked to have his bills moved, that he was going to have, asked to have them moved because if he had to, because he couldn't get them heard. What he finally did, whether they actually came to our committee and came out or not, or whether he had to take them through another committee, who knows if they all got heard or not. I know there were people sat there. It was frustrating for them and for all of us because the chair, of course, was Senator Hutchinson, and he would cut off the meeting early, or he would say, we're ending the committee meeting, or we'll meet this afternoon again, and then he would not meet. And part of that was because there was a bill that he absolutely did not want heard, and he did not want to, the days that he thought that the majority of the votes were present to pass the public safety bill, was when he thought the votes were there, he was not going to hold a judiciary meeting.
Yes,
and judiciary has a lot of bills, and so we need to meet a lot. And, people couldn't have their bills. They would sit there for, the longest, sometimes for hours, or they'd come back and they would sit with hopes to have their bill heard. And I said, Senator, these people need to have their bills heard. And he said, we'll hear them, later today. We'll come back. Or we'll hear them in the morning. They can hear them tomorrow. And then that would not happen. So we really lost a lot of time, and I can understand their frustration because it wasn't just us that were, those that were sitting there on the committee. It was people that needed to have their bills heard. So there were many did not get to be heard.
Yeah.
And we actually signed out some bills at the end of session because those people did not have the opportunity to have their bills heard. And we know that several of them, many were not even controversial. They just did not have the opportunity to come before that committee because we were not there. We were not present.
And what I feel, what was happening, you mentioned the public safety bill, which the left would call, it's a bathroom bill. The media would have called it a bathroom bill. And so you have the governor's nephew, Jeremy Hutchinson, the chair, and I would just say what this was, because the governor didn't want this, but what I feel like happens when you try to thwart the will of the people, and that's what he was trying to do, trying to manipulate the committee and the power that a chair of a committee has. You're scared of the vote that the will of the people for the people that represent that district are going to get the bill out of the committee if you let it run. But in the process of trying to do this legislative sleight of hand, I'm not going to meet now because the consequences of that are bills that are non-controversial. What you're saying is aren't even heard. So maybe the routine business of the people of Arkansas is hurt, all because they don't want something that they perceive to be as politically risky. But, of course, those senators who would have voted for it They were just voting what their people wanted them to do. Is that about right?
Exactly. I mean, and their conscience, because truly that bill is not, and they mislabeled that bill. And I was asked, why do you think that part of the reasons that there were problems with this bill? And I said, partly because the media calls it something it's not.
Yeah.
And it's not another state's bill. There's no comparison. It's mislabeled. And I said,
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. My name is Paul. Thank you so much for being with us. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. We're glad that you're here. The phone number, if you want to call us or text us today, is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be talking with Mark West. He is a libertarian, and he is a candidate for governor of the state of Arkansas. I announced a couple of, maybe was it yesterday, day before? Anyway, we'll be interviewing him, but we've got some the rest of the time, the rest of the show, I can assure you, is going to be devoted to what Governor Asa Hutchinson said today during his press conference concerning the Senate health care bill in Washington, D.C. And I live tweeted some of it. Well, no, I basically live tweeted the entire thing. He made his statement. He then took questions from reporters, some reporters with good questions, some not. I would tell you, and I tweeted this, and we'll get to that tweet here in a minute, but the press conference, in my opinion, is Governor Asa Hutchinson trying to put his weight on the scale, hoping that Senator Tom Cotton and Senator John Boozman will use him as an excuse to not actually really even attempt to get rid of Medicaid expansion for able-to-work adults, which is Obamacare. I wish people, especially the non-platform Republicans that I'm sure always think that I am just always out to get them and that I never have an open mind and that they can never do anything good. I was hoping that Governor Asa Hutchinson was going to come out today and he was going to because here's the thing. Even if he would have come out and endorsed the current Senate plan or the direction that they're going, there's not a real chance. In my opinion, I don't actually believe you're going to get to 2024. There's going to be so many more people on this entitlement welfare program. It's going to be even harder to get. It's going to be harder to get rid of then than it would be today. So, it's funny that he comes out against the Senate bill today. Now, they would say, no, we didn't come out against the Senate bill. We're just wanting changes. Well, you're not wanting to repeal Obamacare. Let's just be honest. Governor Asa Hutchinson today, and we're going to listen to the whole thing. because I want you to understand this. He came out against repealing Obamacare today. I mean, you know, 1/3 of Obamacare is Medicaid expansion, and he is essentially, he had a press conference today to beg people in Washington, D.C., don't do this. Don't decrease the funding for this. Don't put the match rates back to traditional Medicaid. Do you know that Asa, it even sounds like, and guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it even sounds like that the governor came out against block grants today. You know, the thing that Republicans have been saying that they want for decades, the idea that the federal government will just give the states flexibility, but then give a set amount of money. Here he is a block grant to service the population that you have. He came out against that, and then he criticized the other part of the block grant because it doesn't include funding for the expanded Medicaid population, which was a program supposed to have 200,000 people on it. Now only has 300. Or I'm saying, and then it was supposed to only have 200,000, and now it has 330,000. Somebody was, what kind of press conference would you like? Look, he is who he is, okay? I think he's a progressive. I think he's a transitional governor. But, there might be just some rhetoric or some words about how, we tried to do this. And Republicans all across the country and all across our state have been elected to get us out of this mess. And getting out of it means we're going to have to quit giving away free health care to people. I mean, that's what you don't want to say, I guess. Or you say this government program solidifies any limited government person's worldview over and over and over and over again, because it doesn't save us money. It doesn't cost us money. And by the way, I'm pretty sure Asa said something about how Arkansas Works has saved us money. Hang on a second. Last month it was unsustainable, right? Because we had to do something to get 60,000 people off, which all they've really done at this point is apply for the waiver to do that. The phone number, again, if you want to call or text us, 870-275-9799. Here are the tweets I was making during the press conference. At Asa Hutchinson, urging Senate to keep Medicaid expansion and include expansion population in the block grant. Let's see, do we have some more here as we're looking at this? It seems Asa is uncomfortable with the concept of block grants. I thought Republicans wanted this all along. Asa Hutchinson comes out to the left of Senator Mitch McConnell. Okay, so the bill as is now, which conservatives like myself are very skeptical about. Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, these guys are saying, hey, we can't even vote for this thing because it actually still leaves so much of Obamacare intact. Asa is saying, no, we need to go even further, right? And Asa danced around the edges of this story from the Washington Examiner, which we posted on our Facebook page about 30 minutes before the press conference began. Kasich opposes the Senate bill, pushes bipartisan health care talks. And this was interesting because if you scroll down here, you'll see that Ohio Governor Kasich called for Republican Senate leaders to scrap their health care reform bill and work with Democrats on a bipartisan solution. Now, that is very close to what the governor is essentially saying here, is to take it back to the drawing board. You see, we go back to my tweets, and we have this press conference. This is a big one here. Press conference signals the media to raise the alarm because the Senate might stop giving away stuff and getting spending under control. I mean, I just want you to understand something here. This is important because it's not like, okay, everybody should have seen this coming. You realize that Paul Ryan, for years now, and I'm not a giant fan of Paul Ryan, but you do realize for years, Paul Ryan has said that there is no way the federal government can maintain Medicaid expansion at the 90-10% match. You do realize this. And so Asa comes out here today and it's like, no. Did you not think that, a moderate like Paul Ryan, did you not take him at his word when he said, hey, budgetarily, we can't do this. We can't continue to go down this path. Press conference signals media to raise the alarm. And this is the state media. I mean, it really is, especially if you go over here and you read John Brummett's piece from June the 28th here. You see this? This is great because, he lashes out at Tom Cotton, and then he praises Medicaid expansion, right? The Republican bill in the Senate would reduce Medicaid to strictly budgeted block grant, which is what Republicans have wanted for a long time, and I guess Asa doesn't now. It would phase out by 2023 the Medicaid expansion for health insurance for the poor, Brummett writes. That has been a smashing success in Arkansas. Now, John Brummett claims that it's been a smashing success in Arkansas because John Brummett, he thinks that a government program is a success if you can successfully give away free things. That is the definition of a successful government program, to be able to give away something for free. The likes of John Brummett and the liberal left, when I tell you that the estimate said that this program was for 200,000 people originally, and now it's got as many as has had as many as 340,000 people on the program, people on the left, people who are progressives, they think, oh, wow, it's been more successful, even though we had people in every state of the union on our program. Even though we had people in New Jersey who were buying $750,000 homes and were also getting free Medicaid from Arkansas. It's just incredible when you think about how this has been a textbook disaster. It's been a textbook disaster of what government does when it grows, when it takes on responsibilities that it shouldn't. It never does what the progressive politicians tell you that it'll do. It hasn't done what the progressive Republicans in Arkansas told you it was going to do. And it's not, and they're not going to be able to salvage this. Folks, if we fail, and 20, 30 years from now, you and I all have worse health care, there are worse incentives, and we have a single-payer system. And we took the greatest health care, and we'll look back and we'll say we took the greatest health care system in the world, and we gave people less choices, all in the name of trying to control their costs. We actually made things more expensive. That collapsed the system, and now everybody has worse care. The care that it's the equivalent of the VA and the VA horror stories that you read about. I believe if that happens, and I hope it doesn't, because I hope we can turn this ship, or in many cases, aircraft carrier around. It's going to take a while. The Republicans have a great opportunity to do it. They don't need to listen to Governor Asa Hutchinson. They don't need to listen to Governor John Kasich. But if we fail, we will be able to blame Arkansas big government Republicans who rejected the Republican platform, even though they got elected on it. You will be able to blame them for implementing a program here that put us on a path to a single-payer healthcare system. And they might have thought and actually believed their carefully crafted language, but the insurance companies, the hospitals, I mean, come on. If we go to a single-payer system, do you really think the hospital CEOs and the insurance company CEOs are going to? No. They're going to be taken care of. They're going to be the new oligarchs. They're going to be absorbed into this new process. If we ever went to a single-payer system, they would say, we need these people who are in the industry to make the single-payer healthcare system work and everything else. They're not going to put up a fight. They're not going to all of a sudden be champions of free market capitalism. They're not champions of free market capitalism now. Most of them aren't. I'm just telling you, this is how high the stakes are. How many people actually have to vote against Obamacare before they actually listen to us and repeal Obamacare now? Some of my see, we got some more of my tweets here. This is when I was live tweeting. I was live tweeting this morning when the governor. We're going to get to his audio here in a minute. You're going to need to stay tuned for that. Press conference signals to the media to raise the alarm. So this is going to continue now. Those pieces that I just showed you, like John Brummett's piece, this stuff is going to continue. You're going to have more and more folks, saying, "I can't believe." And let me just say this. Let me ask you this question: do you think that Asa Hutchinson's press conference today is going to embolden more people to go protest in Tom Cotton's office or less? Let me say that again. Do you think that Asa's press conference today, those of you who've already seen it, and him talking about how we can't do this to Medicaid expansion, we'll have these tough decisions to make. Do you think that's going to, because the media has been basically saying, like, okay, guys, I'm telling you, I'm essentially opposed without me coming out and saying I'm opposed to it. Asa wants changes to it, and he's, basically coming out against a block grant, which if you're against a block grant, you are a social liberal progressive, period. If you are against block grants, you are a social liberal progressive. I wonder how some of these, the establishment that has been following Asa through all of this, I wonder how some of them feel if you go back and look at their past statements about how, we can get a block grant. What if we get a block grant? We might get a block grant. Well, now your leader is not really happy with the proposed block grant idea. I wonder how you guys feel about that. I wonder if there'll be any movement at all. Yeah, Asa's press conference emboldens the media to start to panic, to start to try to whip the people up into a frenzy, and to put more protesters in Tom Cotton's office. That's essentially what's going on here. 870-275-9799. Let's see. Prescott, we got another one. There's a lot of worry out there. That was an actual quote from the governor. That one, there's a lot of worry out there. Mentioned that. Hey, you remember this? Asa Hutchinson used to actually campaign against Obamacare. I remember that commercial. That was a thing. And then this last one. Asa Hutchinson says the block grant shouldn't drop the expansion match rate down to traditional match rate. Folks, we got to take a break, but we will be back here in a minute. We got continuing coverage of this. This is a huge story because we have Arkansas Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson today. He came out against the repeal of Obamacare, even the lukewarm repeal that many people say isn't even a repeal. I want you to grasp that today. It's a big deal. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. We got to go to break. Back in a minute.
2May PC Repair offers customer service and support from anywhere. Need help setting up a new computer or getting rid of frustrating viruses? Let 2May PC Repair help with computer networking, laptop repairs, or software installation. 2May PC Repair can upgrade your computer's memory to make it more responsive to your commands. And yes, even new computers can perform better than new after our computer setup and optimization service. Call 2May PC Repair today at 870-257-4444. Or visit them on the web at twomeypcrepair.com.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, Start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas. Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Some of our legislators here, welcome.
Asa Hutchinson earlier today.
If I made a little bit more extensive comments on the possible impacts of the current Senate bill on Arkansas, and to be more clear on what changes I see that they need to make. I first want to compliment our Senator Bozeman and Senator Cotton and the rest of our federal delegation for the dialogue that they've had, how they're listening. I've talked to them numerous times in the last week. We'll continue that discussion. I know that they are taking the concerns that have been expressed to the leadership and making that part of the discussions in Washington.
Please listen to me.
Dialogue.
Please listen to your governor.
Most importantly, it is important to recognize that what we have right now under the Affordable Care Act is not a safe path for our future in Arkansas or in America. It is too expensive. It does not give the states sufficient flexibility. It puts the state at risk in terms of cost as well as the federal budget.
He just says Obamacare is too expensive. So he's hedging his bets here. And he knows people are going to draw the conclusion that he's actually coming out against the repeal of Obamacare. What exactly does Asa Hutchinson think Medicaid expansion does? Do you think Medicaid expansion makes health care cheaper? Do you think Medicaid expansion makes health care more affordable for the average people out there that have to pay the expanded premiums? I mean, you just said, let me just acknowledge that Obamacare is making everything more expensive, but you're wanting to support and continue it, and you're complaining that the Senate health care plan brings the federal match rate down to 70-30 sometime in the next billion years. I mean, good grief. Like, that's even going to happen, first of all, because, I mean, they're just kicking the can down the road so they can get more people dependent on this thing, and it'll never go away. And then everything will be really expensive, and it's like, well, now we need a single payer. Arkansas needs a leader. We need someone who recognizes the pitfalls of big government and the benefits of limited government. That man is not Asa Hutchinson. It's just not. It's just not. We're going to have more of this press conference because he really does get into some specifics here, and I want you to hear it for yourself. So we'll get to that probably a little bit more in the end of this hour. When we come back, we're going to be talking to a libertarian named Mark West. He is running for governor of Arkansas, and we're thrilled to have him on the program. Folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
That's to help, kill the bill or to get some bad press. And I said, you guys do that, and that's what you do. But I said, it's not even close to North Carolina's bill. And I said, it's also a public safety. I mean, it's a safety bill to protect our children and to protect our women. And I said, when you look at this and then you get the people to the table that want this bill, when those people come and talk about, and you talk to those people, they want the bill and they want it. And I wish that the governor had talked to me about this bill, because if he went out into the district and he talked to the parents and he talked to the pastors, and because that families talk to the pastors, and if he talked to, because I could work with the governor with this, I wish he would, because this is about the safety of our children. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah. Exactly right. And, of course, what they're saying is this is not a problem that exists in Arkansas, so why deal with it now? And first of all, that's not true. But second of all, I mean, the wisdom of, well, let's wait till a problem exists before we try to do the right thing is really frustrating to me. I wanted to remind our listeners of that. I wanted to remind our listeners of what a champion of conservatism you were. And this isn't really even along ideological lines. What we were just talking about is more just, hey, shouldn't government work in such a way to where we're not afraid of the vote of legislators that is going to reflect ultimately the will of the people who sent them there? That's not something we should be afraid of, and yet they tried to control and manipulate the process, and so I wanted to reiterate that. Folks, we're talking with Senator Linda Collins-Smith. She's from District 19. Hey, Linda, tell us real quick for some of our listeners out there, District 19, kind of summarize the geographic area.
Oh, thank you, Paul. It's a beautiful, wonderful district, but it's a long ways from the state capital. So it's at the northeast corner of the state, central northeast, and so it's I actually live in Randolph County, and it goes all the way over to Independence. I have all of Independence County. I have all of Izard County and all of Sharp. And I have about a half to, a third of Fulton. And I have about a half and a third of Randolph County. So it's I have 5 rivers, and we have lots of water in my district. But I have 5 in Randolph where all the flooding, which has kept me quite busy. And after everyone's safe, we're coming along, and recovery's going along well now. It's going to be a long time on recovery, but that's moving forward now. So everybody's breathing deep, and sighs of relief on all that. It's coming along well. And then all the way over to the White River, and just beautiful hills in Ozark and Delta. So I have it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big district, and I certainly, I appreciate all that you're doing for it. I know the people do too. I want to talk about a couple of bills, okay, because I mentioned some tough votes, and I want you to tell me about this. So here's SB 726. This was a bill that you sponsored, okay, and it was to amend Arkansas law concerning prohibited appearances by legislators and to amend a portion of the law resulting from Initiated Act 1 of 1988. What was this designed to do?
Okay. On 7...
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. 870-275-9799. That is the telephone number if you would like to contribute to the program. Hey, joining us now, I want to welcome. We have Mr. Mark West is with us. Mark is a Libertarian candidate for governor, and he's on the phone. Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me on, Paul. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you announced, what was it, yesterday, the day before?
I announced Monday night. Yes, sir.
Monday night. Okay, Monday night. Well, so tell us, I want to get into the Libertarian Party of Arkansas here in just a moment, but just tell us why you, Mark West, why have you decided to run for governor of the state of Arkansas?
Well, I think you've spent the first half hour of your program describing why I, Mark West, am running for governor of Arkansas. I mean, our governor, who's supposed to be a conservative, had a press conference today, and he practically begged Senate Republicans in Washington, D.C. to act like Democrats and give him a bailout. He seems to like the swampy water of D.C., and he wants to bring it to Arkansas, and true conservatives need an option to vote for in the upcoming election, and I want to give them that option. I want to give them an option to place their vote in if they're tired of the bullying politics that Asa has employed in this state against Republicans, against Democrats, as far as pressuring people to, withholding funding for certain types of bills in order to get people to vote for internet taxes and things like that. It's shameful to me what's happened in the governor's office since he's been there, considering that he has, he is supposed to be the conservative. He campaigned against these things, and he has pushed them since he's been governor. And the voters in Arkansas deserve to have a real choice on the ballot. And right now, I'm in there as the one true conservative voice as far as fiscal government is concerned.
Yeah,
they don't have that otherwise.
Well, I mean, at this point, I would have to agree with you. I have heard from so many conservatives. I mean, they Facebook message me. It's in the comments of our Facebook, and they say that they're not going to vote for Asa. And many of our text messages are wanting, I've asked about another option. But, I've had some that just say, I'm going to vote for a Democrat because you might as well. I mean, because at least then you know what you're getting. And, so there's a ton of frustration out there among the grassroots of folks who don't agree with, where Asa has taken us, especially when you compare what his campaign rhetoric was about what the Second Amendment says, his opposition to Obamacare, school choice, and all of these things that he campaigned on. And then you look at the results, and I was down there at the Marble Palace, Mark, and I saw, there's official accounts, and then there's what the people on the ground, the lobbyists, people will tell you what really happened. And so you got a lot of these issues that, a lot of people don't know about. So talk a little bit about, you mentioned the Republican Party. Now, from a libertarian standpoint, have you noticed that there are conservative Republicans who are, I don't know, they're not really very high up on the governor's list? What do you think about that?
I have noticed that there are a lot that are not sold on Governor Hutchinson. They don't buy and they don't believe in the brand of what he calls conservatism that he's brought to the governor's to the office of governor. Libertarian, our philosophy is a free market philosophy. We are also a fiscally, conservative philosophy. We want to work to streamline the government. We don't want to make it bigger. And that was the reason so many people pushed to get Republicans in office and get, a governor like Asa, was to keep this private option, this Medicaid expansion from coming to Arkansas, because the voters in Arkansas, they're not, they're smart, they're informed, and they know how budgets work. They know that in order to pay for something like this, the money has to come from somewhere. And basically, Asa told us today that and even though, he said we would have to raise taxes, but we're not going to do that, and we'll have to cut benefits, but we're not going to do that. So we're going to basically beg the federal government to bail us out. And that is not Arkansas. We are the sovereign state of Arkansas. The 10th Amendment empowers us to be a sovereign state. We should not have a governor who is willing to make us dependent on the whims of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it's kind of like
voters in Arkansas are frustrated about that.
It's kind of like he doesn't want to come out and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't have done this. And I don't necessarily think he believes that. I think there's all the evidence out there in the world is like, hey, we shouldn't have expanded this program, 300,000 able-bodied adults. They're not entitled to free health insurance. I don't necessarily know if he believes that, though. I think he actually believes that it's now our responsibility to adopt what Washington, D.C. has told us, and that's now a new concept of government, which is everybody is responsible by law for everybody else's health care coverage. Do you think that that's the truth?
No, that's not the truth. But that is ACE's truth.
Right,
ACE's
that's what I meant.
Truth is what works in D.C. should work in Arkansas, and the people in Arkansas don't agree with him. And I hear that in places that I go, conservatives that I talk to. People are frustrated with D.C. politics. I mean, Donald Trump just won the presidency because people are frustrated with D.C. politics and they want somebody to bust it up. Well, D.C. politics is going on in Little Rock right now, and voters need to it's time to vote for an outsider. Send someone to Little Rock who really wants to legitimately break up the system, that legitimately wants to run things different, and who's not afraid of these people. They're, I'm not on anybody's payroll. I'm not getting special interest money. I don't have, I'm not out trying to establish PACs to push my candidates in primaries. I am here for the people of Arkansas to have a voice in Little Rock again. Because as of right now, Governor Hutchinson has hijacked the people's voice in Little Rock, and he's basically a mouthpiece for D.C. And now, in his mind, D.C. is going to betray him by, passing this the reconciliation bill is what they're calling it now in the Senate, where they're looking to phase this out, and he doesn't know where the money's going to come from, and he's trying to pass the buck to D.C. and trying to make it where we're blaming D.C. for his mistake of pushing this and fighting for it when he shouldn't have, when he should have taken a good approach that empowered people and empowered local communities and empowered the free market. Instead, he chose not to and chose to empower and grow the size of the government in Little Rock. And the voters need to hold him accountable for it.
We're talking with Mark West. He's a Libertarian candidate for governor here in the state of Arkansas. Mark, talk a little bit about, kind of refresh our audience with who you are. You live in Batesville. You're a pastor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I've been a bivocational minister for about 15 years, and that's just a fancy word that says I work a full-time job and I pastor a church. So,
well, good for you.
But I also work. Yeah, it's a calling. It's not something that you just step into. But I also work for a company called Mechanical Construction Services. I've run the corporate office for 10 years. We work in the power industry. We send crews all over the country doing shutdowns and maintenance and things of that nature. And I handle all of our licensing, taxes, payroll, billing, just the whole plethora. So I get to deal with government all day. So going to work every day makes me realize just how much we need to reduce the size of our government so that small businesses like the one I work for can thrive and grow and create the jobs that we need in this economy. The high-paying jobs aren't going to be your Bernie Sanders type, impose a $15 minimum wage. Your high-paying jobs are going to come when small businesses are set free from all the regulation that strangles them and that corners the market for the giant corporations. And that's what I stand for. I stand for making this a better place for the middle class, for the working class people that are just struggling, every week trying to make sure you've got enough money to pay the bills and make ends meet and get your kids in school. And I've been married for 20 years to a wonderful woman named Christy. I've got 3 children. My oldest is Matthew, and then Caleb is my middle child. He's 13. And then my daughter Micaiah is 11, and we're all kind of having a family venture this summer. The Batesville Community Theater is doing Shrek the Musical, and we're all going to be in it the last week of July. So, yeah, it's going to be a busy month for us.
Well, you guys break a leg, okay? You got to say break a leg. You don't want to wish the other thing because that's not good luck.
Exactly.
All right, well, we're talking with Mark West, a Libertarian candidate for Arkansas governor. So as somebody who obviously appreciates the freedom that we have to exercise our religion in the First Amendment, free from government interference. Talk a little bit about if you have seen any corporate influences on the current leadership down there. And specifically what I mean is back in 2015, we had the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which was really just trying to mirror what had already been passed in D.C., a decade ago. And, the way the story goes is, the LGBT crowd, they decided to characterize this as discriminatory. Corporations called down to the Capitol, one big Arkansas one in particular, yada, 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 a bill that ASA supported all the way essentially to his desk. he said needed to be rewritten. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't follow that bill particularly, but I do stand for religious freedom. I do believe that you should have what I call the freedom of association, regardless of whether you're a business or another entity, where you can, you have the freedom to choose what you're going to associate with, whether you're associating your business with something or you're associating your person with something that extends to, your religious activities. You should have the full freedom to express your religious activities and have the freedom to hold your religious consciences, in the workplace or, in the marketplace or wherever you go. You should be able to hold those religious consciences, and that's what I believe the First Amendment is designed to protect. And and that, that would be where I would stand on that.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's exactly right. You get into these situations, the florist, the cake baker, and this type of stuff, and that's why the LGBT crowd, they were saying, hey, this is discriminatory. And so I'm glad when you specifically say freedom in the marketplace, freedom in the workplace, freedom in the marketplace. It's really good because I went down there, I did some man on the street interviews, and with the protesters, I was there with them, and I got some of these guys to admit, okay, well, let's take your argument to a doctor, and let's say this doctor is opposed to doing abortion because he believes that abortion is taking a human life. Their response was, well, you should have thought about that before you decided to become a doctor. And
yeah, I've heard that argument, but it doesn't fly. I mean, when you go to provide a service, you see a need in the community that you're providing a service for, and to deny a service is just, it is just part of the basic right that you have as a business owner. The no shirt, no shoes, no service. We've had those type of things in businesses for years. You have the right to deny certain services. And what you will have the impact of, and what you should have the impact of, is if people get mad enough at you for not providing service to a particular group, then they boycott you, and they can go use another business or go try another doctor. It is a complete invasion of someone's rights to force them to perform a service for you. That's conscription. That's slavery, and we left those days supposedly a long time ago. We don't live in those days anymore.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And you get to a point where you either agree with us or you're not allowed to have a business, and that's that's so dangerous, Mark, isn't it? I mean, and think about this: people on the left, whether we're shooting Steve Scalise or whether we're burning down Berkeley or whether we're knocking down a Ten Commandment statue, people on the left they seem to. We seem to be approaching a time that could lead to some really where danger and violence is a lot more common just based on your political affiliation than a lot of people may even think we could never possibly get there. But I think tensions are really ratcheting up. What are your thoughts on the climate right now?
I agree. The political climate it's in bad shape. It has been for several years, and unfortunately, and this is the thing. This is why I think we need to keep as much of D.C. out of Arkansas politics as we can, because in D.C. what happens is somebody on the left will do something, and then somebody on the right will do something, and then they'll both say, well, on the left they're doing this, and so we have a right, it's okay for us to, do and say bad things and be combative because they're doing and saying bad things on the left and they're combative. And I'm like, no, that's an excuse. It's not responsibility. You need to take responsibility for the words that come out of your mouth and for the tone of your politics. And if you don't have the self-control to control the tone of your politics, that's something you need to look in the mirror and address yourself. As a libertarian, I believe strongly in individual responsibility. You take responsibility for your actions. And what it's going to take is each and every one of us taking responsibility for our own tone. When we get on Facebook or we get on Twitter, we don't have to blast somebody, but unfortunately that's what gets the coverage is when somebody tweets something derogatory or semi-abusive at somebody, and then somebody will tweet it back, and before too long you got, somebody is firing shots at a congressman, at a baseball practice. It's sad that the climate is piling up to that, but generally when you have a clash like we do in our culture, you're going to have these conflicts. You're going to have this, this is caused by zero-sum politics. And I know you're familiar with that, the concept that, whoever wins, they get it all and the other side loses it all. We've had this no-compromise politics going on in Washington, this politics where we don't work together, where we don't have productive conversations, where we don't have meaningful relationships with the people that we're dealing with. I mean, I've seen people lose friendships over who they voted for president. Yeah. I'm like, that's just nuts. That's not what America is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right. I have seen that too, or borderline, getting to that point. So we're talking with Mark West. Let's talk just really briefly about the Libertarian Party.
Okay.
You guys, is it easier to get on the ballot than it used to be? Is it hard to get on the ballot? What's it like?
Well, it's difficult right now because we have to do the signature drives, and we're still and we've turned our signatures in. We turned them in mid-July, so we were ahead of the deadline. And I think we turned in 15,000 some odd signatures. So we should, even once they throw out, because normally you lose a percentage of the signatures because they get thrown out, but we should have enough percentage that we did secure our ballot access, and we'll be running another full slate of candidates once we get through our nominating convention in February. But it's difficult and it's costly. See, this is where the law is kind of unfair to parties like ours, because we have to spend a lot of money and time and resources before the election ever starts just to get our ballot access, whereas your Republicans and your Democrats are able to put those resources into candidate recruitment, into building their party, their infrastructure, getting their volunteer bases together. We're having to spend those time and those resources getting signatures just so we can get ballot access. So we start behind every election cycle. And hopefully we can – hopefully through my race for governor, hopefully I'll win this thing. And when I do, we have our ballot access and we have a governor that's representing the people of Arkansas, and then we don't have to worry about it next campaign.
So you're saying, right now, as far as ballot access goes, the laws are structured to where, you just can't be a libertarian and get on the ballot, but you can just be a Republican or Democrat and essentially get on the ballot. Is that what you're saying? Are there what barriers have they created barriers to protect the two-party system?
Yes, they have. The laws are a barrier that protects the Republicans and Democrats, because new parties have to jump through hurdles that the Republicans and Democrats didn't have to jump through when they established as parties in the state to begin with. And these hurdles, as I said, the ballot access, the signature drives, having to get this much in this many races, or, like last time we had candidates pulling 27, 28% in U.S. House races, but because our presidential candidate didn't play very well in this state, we didn't get to have ballot access, even though we had more candidates on the ballot in more races than the Democrats did. And so we still have to go through this ballot access.
That's nuts.
And it's sad, and it is. It's a way to protect the power in Little Rock. And I call on any members of the Arkansas Congress who want to be stand-up people and give the people of this state the voice they deserve, pass some legislation to make it where we can get this status so we don't have to spend all this money and time, and we can have our voice out there for the people here as well.
Yeah, consent of the governed is good. Why wouldn't people just want an accurate reflection of the way people feel? Mark West, the Libertarian candidate for governor of Arkansas. Hey, just tell people real quick where they can find more information if they want to.
Sure, thanks. We're going to have a website up in the next couple of days. It's markwest4governor.com, and it will be the number 4. So Mark West, the number 4governor.com. You can find me on Facebook. It's Mark West 4Gov. That's Mark West, the number 4 GOV. And on Twitter and Instagram, you can also reach me at Mark West 4Gov. So we're trying to keep it all streamlined and simple so people can find us. We're looking for anybody that wants to volunteer and be a part of restoring choice to the people of Arkansas, restoring sanity to Little Rock.
All right, Mark, I appreciate it. Let's talk again soon, okay? Keep me posted.
All right, Paul. Thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you, folks. We got to go to break. Back in just a moment. Bob Maloney here from ASA News The Parrot. breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. Over now to our new on-site reporter, Susan Shenanigans. Susan?
Thanks, Bob. The governor has just announced that a blue ribbon task force is to be formed.
Today, I'm asking your support for a blue ribbon legislative task force to be created and directed to recommend further reform.
Now we go live to the chamber to listen in for more information on the task force.
I hereby call this session into order. First on the agenda for today is the formation of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Is there anyone who would like to give their thoughts on the task force?
Yes, as someone who is deeply conservative, why is the governor choosing the color blue for this task force? Sounds like he's really a Democrat loyalist. Why not a red ribbon to prove he's a true conservative?
Well, I represent Walmart, and we agree with the color of the task force ribbon. The color blue is best consistent with the Walmart brand.
I object to this choice. Blue is the wrong color ribbon for this task force.
Well, who are you?
I am Mr. P.C. Wrights, and I represent Target, and we want the ribbon to be red, not blue.
Hold it right there. This seems like a tough decision. Why not ask the governor to call a special session at a later date for an important decision as this?
I think this is something worth talking about. I motion that we decide the color of the ribbon today.
I second it. Fine. We can decide it now. Does anyone have any other suggestions for the color of the ribbon?
I think the color should be white.
Whoa. Hold on. Definitely not white.
I agree with Mr. P.C. Wrights. Maybe we should choose green for the farmers.
You like the color green because you are a farmer. I think it should be purple, so we can display how Arkansas is an extremely moderate state.
Why are we even discussing this? Shouldn't we be talking about tax reform instead of wasting time with this?
Well, the people have spoken. They believe this is worth talking about, so we are deciding this now.
Excuse me, sir, but shouldn't the color of the ribbon be rainbow to include all types of people?
Please, silence your phones.
I just received a call from Walmart HQ, and they agree with, what was your name again? My name is Fabulous. They agree with Fabulous that the color should be rainbow.
Target concurs with the decision of it being rainbow-colored ribbon.
Is there a motion to make the ribbon rainbow-colored?
I motion to make the color rainbow.
I second the motion. The motion carries because I said so.
The committee will now vote and not be on record to keep the people in the dark. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you for listening to ASA News, The Parrot. Next up, there are reports of a gorilla on top of the Capitol Dome demanding massive sums of taxpayer cash. His name? Medicaid expansion.
PHP Parody.
All right, folks. 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. We appreciate you guys being with us today. We can't do the program without you. Just keep that in mind. We need you listening. We need you telling your friends about the information that you hear here on Arkansas politics that you're not going to hear in other places. And it's just very simple. You're just not going to hear what you hear on this program. So the big news today centers around Governor Asa Hutchinson and what he said today at his press conference. I still am taken back by it. I still really can't believe, and some people have told me, what do you mean you can't believe it? I mean, you've called him a progressive. I know, but I still kind of held out hope. I was still thinking, well, I mean, yeah, he just couldn't do it. I mean, we are now a welfare state. Let's just say it. Arkansas should change their license plates, and we are Arkansas, the welfare state now. And until we get leadership and a governor that's willing to say that that's not a good goal, that's not where we need to be, they are now backing off the block grant. They've always said, we want a block grant. We want a block grant this, a block. Well, what if we do this and then we get a block grant? Well, they're now trying to give you one, and you don't want it now. You don't want it now because you're going to have to make tough choices. Folks, one more hour coming your way next.
Rug.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
2-6. Well, that was an important bill to me because when you're talking about ethics and you're talking about, there seems to be a gap, and we want to talk about some problems we've seen with legislators, and this is an area that I think needs to be clarified, and I think that the law, I think if it were pushed, or if a case were if it were challenged, I think that we would find that guilt would be found, because I don't think you can take money for a vote. Okay, I think that's clear.
So that's what this bill was designed to try to stop. Maybe a practice where they say, "Well, I'm not taking money for a vote." So kind of make that more practical for us. What are we talking about here?
All right, let's say that an attorney's hired by a client, and they go to our state capitol and they work on a bill that benefits that client, and they get a bill passed, they get us to vote for it, and they've actually been paid. If I do that and I take money, guess what? I can't do that. And I can't be a lobbyist and take money. And I can't be, if you're a consultant, are you truly a consultant or are you a lobbyist? What's that definition? So we need to make sure that we're letting the legislators know, that was intentionally letting legislators know that although that is not written into the ethics laws, it's a reminder that you can't take money for your vote.
So you're saying that if you, Linda Collins Smith, were paid, by somebody to vote a certain way, okay, that's done. That's obviously black and white. That's wrong. That's illegal. You're saying if an attorney, though, has a client with his law practice that is paying him to go down there to sponsor a piece of legislation or something like that, that is somehow legal, that right now that can happen and there's no consequences?
No, I don't think it's legal personally.
Okay.
And that's the point.
Okay.
And that's why this bill, I did this ethics bill, and also talked to our ethics director, and it's not written. This is like that little piece that's not written into our ethics law. But do I think that clearly it's against the law to take money for a vote? Yes, I do. I think we have clear examples of that with legislators who've been in trouble.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a really.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
this ethics bill is black and white, and why any legislator wouldn't vote for it, I can't understand.
So what happened? What was the vote? What ended up happening with this bill to try to clarify that, hey, this is illegal. If you're an attorney and you're a legislator, you can't go down there and basically do your client's bidding. What ended up happening with this thing? Did it get to the floor of the Senate? I see the Senate voted on it 2 times, so I'm assuming it didn't make it out of the Senate.
That's right. It was voted. Actually, the bill was there was amendment on the bill, of course, and the bill. I think what happened is I had to put the body. If my memory was, I had to put. It was that I had to actually put the body in the bill, and that I think it was filed as a shell bill, if I remember, that I had to put the body in the bill. So there was an amendment, and I did get the bill amended. And then when I went back to the bill to pass it, to present the bill, it was fought hard, especially by 2 senators, and especially by Senator Hutchinson did not want it.
Yeah, he's an attorney.
Very hard.
Dude's an attorney. He's the chair of the judiciary, and he himself is an attorney. So there you go.
And Senator Garner didn't want it and made it clear that he wasn't a practicing attorney.
But he's still an attorney.
He didn't want that, which was Senator Hutchinson fought hard too, and it was like, That's correct, but you guys have to understand there's a problem with taking money for a vote and so I have a problem with that myself. I'll just have to tell you that. If I can't take money, I think that's when you recuse that client.
Yeah. Yeah.
See,
really
I
good.
think that, to me, is very clear. And so I think that they need to consider that. I think that this should have passed, and I don't think anyone should have voted against this bill just because it wasn't written there. I think it was a good bill to clean up our ethics, a gap in our ethics, and it was a reminder to them. But to me personally, I think it would have been a good reminder to them.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
All right, hold on, ladies and gentlemen. We got a big hour coming your way. A lot of news to get to bring you up to speed. Essentially, this morning, or this, I guess about 11 o'clock, we had a press conference, Governor Asa Hutchinson, on the D.C. health care plan. What's going on in the Senate? Governor Hutchinson essentially was begging them not to do what they're trying to do, which is repeal Obamacare, even in a very lackluster Mickey Mouse way where Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee can't even, and more can't support it because they're worried. But then you have, Governor Hutchinson essentially begging D.C., do not take away our Medicaid expansion for able-to-work adults. He even came out against block grants, in my opinion. I'm taking him, I'm listening to what he says. He doesn't like their block grant idea. And let's see, we got some more. He said there's a lot of worry out there in response to a reporter's question. To me, this press conference signaled that the media can raise the alarm some more. Just go ahead, whip people up into a frenzy. I think Governor Asa Hutchinson's going to inspire stories that put more people in Tom Cotton's office protesting, not less. And I think Asa Hutchinson came out today to the left of Mitch McConnell, just like he came out to the left of Paul Ryan. Those are really my opinions at this point. But let's go ahead and get to some of this audio that we have because we've got a lot of it to get to. Take a listen. This is him earlier today.
And so the current path is not sustainable. We have to have change. They're working diligently to have that change.
Now, I want you to hear what he says here. The current path is not sustainable. We have to have change. What he's saying is that Obamacare is not sustainable. He says that at the beginning of his press conference. The current path is not sustainable. However, he then is begging them to not get spending under control, to not scale back Medicaid expansion, to not repeal Obamacare, the very thing that he just says is unsustainable. So right off the bat, he's not making any sense with an ounce of critical thought.
To do it in a way that works for America.
What does that even mean? You've got to do it in a way that works for America. What does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, I feel like Chuck Schumer would say the same thing.
To the governors, we've communicated regularly with the Senate leadership and the House leadership over the last 3 or 4 months. We'll continue to do so. And so change has to be a part of the equation for the future. But the Senate bill is changing right now. People ask me, well, do you support the Senate bill or do you not support the Senate bill? That's really not a fair question because it's changing day by day. And we all know that there will be more changes that will be made in the coming weeks before the final vote is taken. And so I just want to make comments as to what the current draft is and what changes we are advocating for
Please, let us
the
keep
Senate
medicating.
bill, and as Congress continues to consider this.
Just let us keep medicating.
As it stands now on the Senate.
I want to say he said very similar. Very similar tone. You could probably just copy and paste what he said when the House bill passed. Well, it's a good start. The House bill's a good start, but it doesn't need to be the final solution. He was worried then. Well, they're going to cut Medicaid. That's his whole issue. Our state is so over-leveraged because we wanted to give hospitals and insurance companies a dedicated taxpayer-guaranteed funding stream.
Bill, it does some good things. It reduces costs, it cuts the deficit, and provides more options for the states. And so it is progress. It moves us in a more positive direction. It provides less.
Joe's not here this week, but he's always talked about how flexibility actually means more money when the governor says that. And the John Kasich piece, the Washington Examiner, John Kasich defines flexibility, if you go read that piece, as not cutting off the federal support of money to the states.
Federal control over the commercial insurance market, and it provides more regulatory flexibility to the states. These are all good things. These are things that we have advocated for and we're delighted are included.
You've also advocated for block grants
in the current version. But the big problem is that the Senate bill does continue to shift costs to the state, and that leaves states like Arkansas with few choices.
Yeah.
Arkansas, as you know,
an obvious choice. You're going to have to govern.
Election as governor.
You're going to have to say welfare's not good if it's for able-to-work adults.
Medicaid population, and that expansion was based upon a federal commitment, but the Senate bill reduces that federal.
Folks, my brain is like an encyclopedia. I'm recalling every lie that any one of these big government Republicans has ever told. If they ever change the commitment, we can get out of it like this. We've got an opt-out clause. We've got a trigger. There's a trigger, and if they ever change, we're going to be able to end the program. You guys are liars. That's what you did, man. That's what you did to pass this thing. If they ever change it, if they ever say we got to pay more than 10%, there'll be a trigger, and then we're done. Arkansas is done. And there's just a little number that's a problem. 330,000 Arkansans.
Commitment from the 90% level of federal participation down to the traditional Medicaid reimbursement rate. That is a dramatic shift of federal participation in the Medicaid program. And so when the reimbursement rate is reduced, then the state has got difficult choices to face. It either has to reduce the expanded Medicaid coverage, or we have to cut costs in the traditional Medicaid program, and that includes children, elderly, and people with disabilities. Or it could be a combination of cuts to both, or we can increase taxes. Now, with the legislators standing here looking over my shoulder, I want to assure them we are not raising taxes. So the result is that the Medicaid coverage will be reduced if the current Senate version was adopted. And
that's a signal. Media, you guys can sound the alarm, whip people up into a frenzy, get more people in Tom Cotton's office ASAP. ASA. Oh, my goodness. The phone number, if you want to call or text us, 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. Now, notice, here's the thing here. I want to remind everybody, in order to pay for able-to-work adults to get free health care, because they deserve it, according to our overlords, these guys proposed already. Asa Hutchinson himself has already proposed $800 million in cuts to traditional Medicaid for the truly needy. That's been their whole goal. And so, but now, we're going to have to find cuts if we're going to pay for this. How about government takes care of those who truly cannot take care of themselves? But for those who are able to work adults, that they're not entitled to anything. Right? Because then we'll adequately will be able to take care of those who truly need it much more and with much greater success.
Let me just elaborate for a second on that. If in 2020 the expanded population, expanded Medicaid coverage is reduced by the federal participation from 90% down to 67%, the state of Arkansas could not absorb that additional investment that would be required
right there.
To maintain the coverage for 300,000 Arkansans.
So please, Senator Bozeman, Senator Cotton, please don't do this, is what he's saying.
To make dramatic changes based upon that reduced federal participation. Now, it is clear that we have to achieve substantial savings both in the federal government marketplace but also in the state by reducing the rate of growth in Medicaid spending, and Arkansas is fully committed to doing that, as well as having innovative approaches for reviewing Medicaid, reforming Medicaid. Here in Arkansas, we have already led the way in reform and savings. We have reduced, through the waiver that will be requested, Medicaid eligibility from 138% of the federal poverty level to 100%. We have put in mandatory work requirements on able-bodied adults. We have engaged in transformation
Those are part-time
initiatives
work
that
requirements.
result in savings over 5 years
Still
of
going to have a welfare
$835 million. This is reform efforts that we are accomplishing in Arkansas that benefits.
Well, no one's accomplished anything yet.
For our state.
No one's accomplished anything yet because, I mean, all you've done is submit the waiver, and you gave a bill that gave DHS more power and cut out the legislature, i.e. the people, from having any more of a say in this.
In terms of general revenue, but it also reduces the cost of the federal government. And so this is our view, is that we can work together to reduce the growth in spending on Medicaid through reform efforts that we're already accomplishing in this state. And that those savings are being accomplished in partnership with the provider community, with the legislature, in a team effort, and we're leading the way in reform and in creating savings. And so with that background, with the challenge that we face with the current version of the Senate bill, we're recommending changes to the Senate bill. We're not saying do nothing. We're saying we need to do better, and we need to have a better result from the debate in Washington.
I want to show you guys something. You ready for this? If Governor this is unacceptable. This press conference is unacceptable. Aside from the fact that he's saying, Governor Hutchinson is saying, we want to keep one of the biggest parts of Obamacare. Please don't retract one of the biggest parts of Obamacare. That is what he's saying in his carefully crafted language here. Aside from that, he shouldn't be surprised. The media shouldn't be surprised. None of you guys should be surprised that this is happening. Number one, it's a big government program. It's grown and it's vastly more expensive because that's what happens when you try to take on these responsibilities. Number two, the Speaker of the House and a Republican leader who I consider to be a moderate has been saying this for a long time, that there is no way the states who have expanded Medicaid are going to continue to enjoy the federal advantage of a 90% match rate. And I can show it to you right here. It's very simple. Here is Jack McHugh from April 24th of 2013. Headline: Ryan to states, don't bet on Obama Medicaid money. Congressman says both parties would break the promise. Here's what Ryan told the editors. The fastest thing that's going to go when we're cutting spending in Washington is a 100 or 90% match rate for Medicaid. There is no way. It doesn't matter if Republicans are running Congress or Democrats are running Congress. There's no way we're going to keep those match rates. That's not the only time he said that. That's not the only time he said that, folks. He said that countless times, okay? So, shouldn't be surprised by this.
And so under the Senate proposal, the age, blind, and disabled populations, which is the part of the traditional Medicaid population, they are shifted to a per capita cap.
Here it is.
This is traditional Medicaid, as I mentioned.
This is called a per capita cap. This is part of a block grant.
Will ultimately reduce the financial commitment to the states from the federal government. Whenever they go to a...
Will it reduce the financial commitment, Governor? Or will it keep the financial commitment from increasing? I mean, are you doing this? Are you doing the budgeting scheme where if you don't get an increase, it's considered a cut? Is that what Ace is doing here? I think so. He's actually doing. What is that called? Baseline budgeting, where if you don't get an increase, or you get less of an increase, then that's a cut. When really you're getting the same
per capita cap. In a population that has historically had high expense categories, that will represent a cost shift to the state by their movement to a per capita cap. And that is of the traditional Medicaid population,
which is a conservative policy. Your suggestion is to not have a conservative fiscal policy to try to get our mandatory spending under control, which I know for a fact goes against the convictions of, I can't say all of our federal delegation from Arkansas, but I do know for a fact some of them, because they want to get spending under control. And if getting spending under control means they have to force you, Governor Hutchinson, to actually govern and actually control spending yourself, which you have shown an allergy to doing, so be it.
That traditional Medicaid, that this category needs to be exempted from the per capita cap, and that is one of the traditional Medicaid categories. Otherwise, it represents a cost shift to the states. The second recommendation is that
no, it doesn't. It doesn't not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a cost shift to the states. It means that you're going to have the flexibility, right, to be able to set the rules and to be able to maintain our. Do you really need this coverage? Do you not need this coverage? Or, I don't know, maybe a block grant situation would not be good for managed care if you want. I may be onto something there. I don't know. Maybe managed care companies, because I know Ace is a fan of managed care. He wants to give the responsibility of Medicaid completely to a private company, right? Let them handle it. Well, isn't that one of the conservative reasons is it would be a block grant style where they'll do it for a set amount of money? Well, it's the same thing, except it's the feds saying, here, Arkansas, you got to do this for a set amount of money.
The block grant option that is provided, it needs to be extended to include the expansion population.
Don't touch the size of government, whatever you do.
We are right now working to create savings within.
We got to take a break, but he's advocating the continuation of Obamacare. That's what Governor Hutchinson did today. He is advocating for the continuation of. He is asking Tom Cotton and John Bozeman to continue at least 1/3 of Obamacare. And if you look and you read what that Senate bill really does, many people said it already keeps 80 to 90% of Obamacare, right? Now, part of that is the Medicaid. Actually, no, because it ends in 2024. So if ACE is asking them a Senate bill, which is already not as conservative as many people would like, to keep 1/3 of Obamacare. Folks, I mean, come on. If you're against block grants, I'm sorry, you are a social progressive. I mean, if you ever doubted me, now you don't have to doubt me. I mean, now it's pretty straightforward what's going on here. Folks, we do have to take a break. We're going to be back here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Two-May PC Repair offers customer service and support from anywhere. Need help setting up a new computer or getting rid of frustrating viruses? Let Two-May PC Repair help with computer networking, laptop repairs, or software installation. Two-May PC Repair can upgrade your computer's memory to make it more responsive to your commands. And yes, even new computers can perform better than new after our computer setup and optimization service. Call Two-May PC Repair today at 870-257-4444. Or visit them on the web at twomeypcrepair.com.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Want to go back and listen to previous shows? Apple users can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Don't have an Apple device? Head on over to paulharrell.com and click on Podcast. It's free and available 24/7 because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
I mean, some of our text messages here are quite humorous. I have a text message here. We're about to hit another hard break, so forgive me. I know I talked too long. Let's see here. Randolph County. Shane in Randolph County writing in, I'm a staunch conservative, but I would vote for Bernie Sanders before I would vote for Asa Hutchinson. We have another one. Asa continuing to use bully and scare tactics on threats to cut spending on the blind, disabled, and elderly while flying around the country trying to find foreign companies to give away taxpayer money by tens of millions. Hashtag never Asa. More text messages. Here we go. Who is this? 1 in 3 people in Arkansas are on his Medicaid expansion scheme. We've heard all this before. So clear that Asa is a big government guy. I sure hope Tom Cotton and John Bozeman ignore his, quote, advice, end quote. I certainly do, too. Greetings, Paul. Time to wear out the toll-free number to the Capitol, or single payer is on the way. Cheers, Joe in Fulton County, listening on Mountain Talk 97.1. That toll-free number to the Capitol is 1-877. 1-877-762-8762. 1-877-762-8762. Cheers to you, Joe, in Fulton County. Folks, back in just a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
There should be no appearance, to me, with an attorney that I think they should always be above board. They may tell me they don't think they're doing anything wrong, but I think an attorney shouldn't take any money from a client to go down and pass that bill.
I'm so glad we're having this. I'm really glad we're having this conversation. We're talking with Senator Linda Collins-Smith. I mean, that's the kind of deep government reform that she's attempting to do, and that's the kind of stuff that, when it directly is going to affect politicians potentially, they fight back. And so I'm sorry that it turned out the way it does. I think you even running the bill, though, exposes the senators that, you just mentioned. I want real quick, we only have like 3 minutes left, I want to talk about this other bill that you did, Senate Bill 727, concerning the civil forfeiture of assets involved in certain criminal offenses. Talk about that, because that is a huge conservative movement to say, hey, maybe we need to reform our civil asset forfeiture when no one's committed a crime. Talk about that.
Okay. We really have in our country, and we know we don't have the perfect sets of circumstances, but we have the best country when it comes to our laws in America and justice. We really believe we have the best. But, I believe in innocence until proven guilty. We all do. But is that true? Because when you could actually lose your assets, that civil asset forfeiture. And when I explained on the Senate floor how that can happen, it became very clear, because it could happen to anyone. And I used an example of a young man getting cash to go across the country after he gets out of college. And he's got a job, but he's got to go across the country, so he takes cash. He doesn't have his checking account set up. It's like, use this little example of your son leaving home for the first time, and he doesn't have an account, and he gets stopped with no account. He gets stopped, and he's got cash, and someone thinks he's a drug person. It's drug money, and they take his money. Now he has no money. Now he has to prove and hire an attorney, but yet he has no money. And he's got to go hire an attorney. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they can take money because they think he's a drug runner. And
but they don't know. They don't have any proof of that.
That's right. And there's no proof. And now he's going to have to hire an attorney to get his cash back. So this is the short version, because you only have a few minutes. But I want to say this. Making sure that our officers and our prosecutors know. I'm not against. They need to do their jobs. There are obviously criminals out there and people that do the wrong things, and there are drug runners. We know that. But I want to say this. There is a better way to fund our police department, our prosecuting department. There is a better way. It's our job to make sure that we handle the budget to make sure they are funded. But I believe innocence until proven guilty, and that we take care to make sure. And there's an example I'm going to use in Arkansas specific, and that case that I gave the day in the chamber. Someone texted the members in the chamber and told them that the money was given back, and it wasn't. It was about approximately $20,000.
Yeah, and it wasn't given back, was it? It wasn't.
It was not, but they said it was.
$9.92.
Your values, your ideals. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
It's the Paul Harrell Program. We are building a liberty machine, and we want you to be a part of it. Send me a text message, give me a phone call, contribute to the program, 870-275-9799. We thank you so much so much for being with us today. We can't do the program without you listening. We're going over this audio. Let's pick back up. We got a lot more to get through.
The expanded population, which is up to 138%.
Governor Asa Hutchinson begging for more money from D.C.
It will be reduced down to 100% of the federal poverty level. But under the current Senate version, the block grant option does not include the expansion population. So that, again, puts us in a difficult position of being unable to...
That's because people have been saying that there's just no way the federal government can continue to fund Medicaid expansion. Number one, the repeal of Obamacare is about undoing this concept that we're all born enslaved by law to each other and are all responsible for each other's health care costs. Let me break it down for Asa. The reason it's not included is because the American people don't want socialized medicine. Medicaid expansion is a part of socialized medicine.
To manage that expansion population, to create the savings that's needed, and to maintain the coverage that's currently in place. And so we would urge the Senate to include the expansion population in that block grant.
Don't listen. Do not listen, Tom and John. Please don't listen to this.
Can assume risk, create savings, and assure continued coverage for the working poor. The third recommendation is that we redesign the tax credit subsidies that stabilize the individual marketplace. And so if we move from 138% of the federal poverty level down to 100% or make some other judgment there, then those will be able to move on to the individual marketplace and have insurance coverage there. But if that subsidy is not sufficient in the marketplace, then that individual who loses coverage under the Medicaid program will make the decision, I can't afford it. And it will ultimately wind up with lost coverage. And so you have to be able to give them an incentive to move up that economic ladder, to move off of Medicaid, and to have that incentive, you have to have sufficient subsidies as tax credits on the individual marketplace.
Okay, stop. That, you know how frustrating that is for any real conservative to hear? You have to have the subsidies in order for them to move up the economic ladder. I mean, this guy is delusional. I mean, folks, when you there's something called a welfare cliff, and it's a very simple concept. It's about incentives and disincentives. And welfare programs for able-to-work adults, meaning you're able to get a job, but you just won't do it, okay? And you're giving something free. You're giving something for free, all right? If you then go get a job where you're going to now be making more money and no longer – because if you work – is it 30, 40 hours a week? I mean, if you work 30 hours a week, I don't think you qualify for Obamacare Medicaid expansion at minimum wage. So then you go and you get that job. If you work over that 30-hour threshold, well, now all of a sudden you have to pay even more money because you see you're saying. So it actually, this isn't about getting people, ignoring the welfare cliff. I mean, I'm sure it makes, I don't know why they do it. I don't know why Asa Hutchinson is ignoring the welfare cliff. Maybe he disagrees that that's even a thing. Maybe he disagrees that somebody who is maybe working a minimum wage job and is offered a promotion would not take it because then financially they now are actually going to be making less money after they take the promotion because now they have to pay for their health care costs. It's a real thing. It's a proven statistical thing. But, you know, he's going to continue talking about, well, no, we need the subsidies. We need the welfare program so people can become independent. I mean, that's what he's saying. People can move up the economic ladder. The idea would be, well, you're no longer dependent on the government because you've moved up the economic ladder. I'm telling you the very existence of a program for those who are not truly needy and that it's free is not going to move people up on the economic ladder.
That work, and that needs to be redone in the Senate bill. And then fourthly, we would ask them to give the states greater control over the Medicaid program under the per capita option. And so if you take that, that is assuming a risk to the state because there's a cap on what the participation will be by the federal government. You've got to give us the flexibility to manage the program and create the savings and deliver the services. So you've got to have that kind of flexibility. We'd ask for additional tools that the state can use.
Company.
And so let me reemphasize that the Senate is moving in the right direction. The status quo is not acceptable, but there has to be significant changes in the current draft in order to
that essentially keep every part of Obamacare that's the worst part for everybody. You know, the driving force of our premiums going up.
Give the states like Arkansas options for our future that we can continue the coverage and not have a $500 million per year gap in our economy.
I really hope this doesn't tilt the scale at all. I mean, I really hope Senator Bozeman, Senator Cotton, I hope this doesn't tilt the scale at all for them. I hope they're like, you know what? No. I mean, how many elections do we have to have nationally, statewide, of people electing Republicans to get rid of Obamacare? And now we have 1/3 of our populations on Medicaid. Somebody texted me that a second ago. We have 700,000 who are in the traditional program. Okay, let's just assume. Let's assume that those 700,000 are the truly needy. I mean, that's what the program's for, so I think that's a safe assumption. Why do you want to expand it to 300,000 people who are able to work adults? I mean, good grief. And 300,000 people, a vast majority of them don't have jobs. A vast majority do not have jobs. And Asa wants to go around bragging, we've got a 3.4% unemployment. Our economy's great. Really? A million people on this program are on this program combined. I mean, but those are facts. So I don't know.
Let me finally say
please do.
There's been a question as to when, if the legislation is adopted in Washington that rolls back the federal participation and the federal match rate,
which it will.
What will that do?
Which it will. They're going to do that.
Trigger the end of Arkansas Works. And we have received that we'll distribute to you an opinion from the legal counsel at DHS that indicates that Arkansas Works will not end upon.
You know why the governor's mentioning the word trigger? Because that's what the original private option architects talked about. If they ever remove the 90%, 10% match, there's a trigger in Arkansas. Out of it, the program's ended. Ace is letting you know that wasn't true. That they didn't ever want to get out of the program.
Passage of a law that reduces the federal Medicaid match at some point in the future. The wind down would not be triggered until an actual reduction occurs. So that's based upon legal counsel.
So never mind. I stand corrected. What I just said is not right. It's very easy. See how easy that is, guys? He's saying that if they pass the law, it won't end. The actual reduction would have to occur first, which is what, guys? 2020, 2024? I don't even know. You guys will have plenty of time to explain to your hospital overlords and your insurance company overlords. Actually, you guys will figure out a way to keep it.
My view, and that would be the position of the administration. And so I hope that takes a little bit of pressure off.
Oh, by the way, at the beginning of this press conference, if you missed it, Asa said that if this happens, if the Senate bill goes through as is, our choices in Arkansas are limited. But he said we'll have to cut services or we'll have to raise taxes. And then he said, well, we're not going to raise taxes, though. There's no way to do that. Don't believe that, because Asa likes to raise your taxes, but he doesn't call. He would if you say, well, you already have raised my taxes. You've raised my taxes on tires. You've done all this. He would say, well, those aren't tax increases. You see, he says we're not going to raise tax increases, but he has a very he has a very misguided definition of what a tax increase is.
Of the immediate worries, because one thing the Senate is doing very well, and that is giving a very long glide path that allows us to continue to look and plan and adjust to whatever is the final outcome on the congressional action that they are considering at the present time. So with that, I'd be happy to turn this over to any questions.
Here are the questions.
And maybe you say it's an unfair question, but with how these changes, do you oppose the Senate bill as is if it doesn't have these changes in it?
Oh, wow. That is a straightforward question. It's a great question. Without the changes, do you oppose the Senate bill? Let's hear Ace's straightforward answer.
My duty is to be an informed governor and to inform our federal delegation as to the impact on this state. I'm being very clear as to the impact that it would have on the state of Arkansas, on our health care coverage, and what it would do to Arkansas Works, which we have worked hard for, I have fought hard for, the legislature has fought hard for. And so we want to educate them on the impact of it and then be forward-leaning and say these are specific suggestions that would help remedy the bill and would help us in Arkansas to meet the savings goal, but also to meet the goal of continued coverage. So I don't think it's incumbent upon me because
I think, Ace, we want to save money and we want to continue to give away free insurance, but we want to save money. We're going to save money, but we're going to continue to give away free insurance. Then we're going to, at the same time that we're going to save money, we're going to continue to give away free insurance. That is because we've got breaking news. The world is actually comprised and composed of an infinite amount of resources. And that's how that's possible. That's how that thinking is possible, because we have an infinite amount of resources where everybody can have everything, and there's no negative consequences. A utopia, perfection of man, I don't know. But that's how it's possible. You save money and continue to give away free coverage for people who are able to work, adults that don't want to work. But we're going to save the money. It's going to cost less. I mean, we're going to give people something that does cost something, but not to them. But it's going to save money. It makes perfect sense as long as we have an infinite amount of resources. That if there's a finite amount of resources, that wouldn't work.
I'm never going to be able to see what that final draft is. I know I've been in Congress and I know how it works. And
the man asks the question was, do you support the Senate bill? Do you oppose it, rather? Do you oppose the Senate bill if your changes are not made? And he says, he doesn't answer the question, and he says, but I'm never going to be able to see what the final bill is. What? I mean, we're all going to be able to see what the final bill is eventually. Why don't you just tell us if you oppose it or not?
Changes up until the last minute. So I am giving advice and counsel as to the impact on Arkansas. I'll leave the final vote up to the delegation.
Hopefully they ignore everything you've just said.
Did arrive at the draft, at least in this stage, in this form. Do you feel like Senator Cotton and Bozeman are listening to you if this is part of the plan?
Oh, I think they're absolutely listening to them. I've talked to them.
That's not good.
We've worked very closely together on this, and I very much appreciate their conveying our concerns and suggestions to their Senate colleagues.
You know what those Senate colleagues are probably saying to Tom Cotton and John Bozeman if they are in fact conveying Asa Hutchinson's concerns? They're going to say, wait a second, I thought you guys were a red state. And Tom Cotton and Tom Cotton and John Bozeman were like, yeah, well, I mean, we are, but yeah, we're one of the we're the only state. Well, I guess Louisiana now, but they got a Democrat governor and then did it. We're one of the only states in the South that's led by Republicans that decided to do this. And those Senate colleagues, they this is just my hypothetical. I mean, maybe they're just like, well, that was stupid. What the Republicans in Arkansas do that for? That was stupid. That certainly made things harder on you guys. It really doesn't concern us if the majority of the people up there are from red states that didn't act stupidly, that didn't expand government, and in our case, grow government, the largest expansion of government in Arkansas history, this program of 300,000 people on a welfare program. They're conveying it to their colleagues, and their colleagues are probably like, well, that's tough crap. Sorry. Hey, why don't you tell your governor and your legislature that was Republican majority and could have stopped this if they would have just stuck together and not listened to the insurance companies and the hospitals? Why don't you tell them that they made their bed, now lie in it? Maybe there's a conversation like that happening. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they're a lot more respectful than I am in the Senate. But I would assume in the back door is like, really? Oh, I'm sorry. No. Oh, sorry. Just you need to convey to them that this is the plan going forward. They need to just figure it out, man. Figure it out. I really hope. I mean, I'm glad the dialogue's open, as it should be. I just really hope they're not listening to anything he says.
In fact, each one of the recommendations that I made today for changes in the bill have been conveyed previously to our Senate delegation, and I know that they're looking at that and conveying that to other colleagues.
Do you know if Senator Cotton agrees with these changes?
You'll have to speak to Neil.
Functionally, the per capita cap, what does that actually look like in Arkansas, especially when you're talking about the traditional Medicaid population?
The per capita cap, what's that going to look like in Arkansas?
For folks who are on that, what would that mean with practices?
Well, if you take a lot of different ways to construct a per capita cap, but that means you take the current Medicaid dollars for a traditional population and you divide it by the number, and that gives you the amount that's being spent per capita. That's okay for 1 year, but the problem is this is a high-need population, the aged, the disabled, and so the medical costs go up higher than the traditional rate of inflation, and so you're putting the states in a bind with a per capita rate that would not give us the amount that would.
The governor was just saying in this exact same press conference that they are ready to find savings. This is the same governor, because I've criticized them. They want to find $800 billion in savings in traditional Medicaid, right? And I've called those cuts. But they dispute that. They say, well, no, those aren't cuts. We're finding savings. Okay, well, then, I mean, if you guys think you can find savings, why not? I mean, if there's savings and no one's going to lose service. I mean, that's what you say. I'm not really. I mean, because, see, the reason I said it, the reason this little disagreement they wanted, and he said this, we're going to find the $800 billion in savings in traditional Medicaid for the truly needy so we can pay for the 300,000 who are able to work adults on the program that are getting it for free, which I just fundamentally disagree with. If the program's for the able to work, or for the disabled and for the truly needy, let's adequately take care of that population before we expand coverage to those who don't need it.
Needed for the coverage of this population with the medical rate of inflation. And so that's the concern there. And so we would have to adjust down services. We would have to create savings elsewhere, raise taxes, or put more dollars from general revenue in there. And that's a tight squeeze for a state to make.
The population would still be served and not served in the way that they're currently served.
That's correct. Absolutely. It is just a cost shift to the states. It doesn't mean the states are not going to assume that responsibility, provide the proper care, do everything they can to make sure those services are met.
Raise the alarm.
It's just a different way of funding it, but it's not a sufficient way of funding it, and therefore the state would have to absorb more of the cost.
When you use the term $500 million gap, what were you referring to?
Well, if you look at how much is being spent through federal dollars in our economy through their Medicaid participation, our estimates are that with the action that would be taken and the reduced participation, that's like pulling $500 million out of our healthcare system in Arkansas.
Do you have an estimate on, because there's been all sorts of numbers flying around, what it would cost to unwind Arkansas Works? I mean,
No.
You'd have to shift populations back to the Medicaid program, fill in the holes of uncompensated care. Estimated what it would be?
What the process would be?
What the cost would be?
No, we have not estimated that. We're concentrating on, first of all, the reform efforts and our transformation efforts to make sure it's a strong program for the future.
And it's a very emotional day today, very emotional press conference. ASA begging for the poor state of Arkansas to continue to get money from Washington, D.C. at its current level, because we may have to actually make tough choices and deny welfare to able to work adults. Forgive me, I'm just a little emotional.
That's what our focus is, and so in terms of winding down something, one, I hope we don't get to that point, and secondly, if we do, we'd have to estimate the cost at that time.
If the Senate bill version like this passes, what Medicaid programs would the state cut first in terms of the optional Medicaid programs that the state currently funds?
You mean if the Senate bill passed? I would not speculate on that. If you look at, and I made it clear, the first challenge is the expanded Medicaid program. Those that are making up to currently 138% of the federal poverty level. These are people who are working, have some income, but they can't afford health insurance. Right now, we're covering that. But if that match is reduced from 90%, which was the original commitment, down to the traditional match rate, which is the current plan, then there would be no choice but to end the expansion program.
Uh-oh. How will we ever get by? What are the insurance companies? What's Blue Cross Blue Shield going to do without a dedicated guarantee of taxpayer revenue to their operation? What are they going to do without a $2 billion a year program? Oh gosh. Maybe Washington, D.C. will hear the pleas of our governor and find a way. Please just find a way.
Unless the legislature deemed it necessary to come up with hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in order to fund that program. And I think that would be doubtful.
Oh, this is ridiculous. This is the same guy, folks. The same guy. We're running out of time here. It is the same guy that said that that this whole thing was not Obamacare back in the primaries, by the way. Just so you know. That's exactly what this is. Hey, folks, let me tell you, before we go to break, we're going to end the show here in just about a minute and a half. I do want to tell you about iTex. iTex, they are the techs to trust. And you go over here to the website, itexusa.com. Those of you seeing this, ask them about being a managed service provider, what that means. We've talked about the ransomware. I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on now and how fast evolving these services are with the ransomware and things like that, these viruses and cyber attacks. Be proactive. So it's a free consultation. That's all it is. You see the number right there, 870-336-9778. You've heard me talk about them before, 870-336-9778. Okay, they'll serve. Just give them a call. Don't be the person that's asking your secretary, hey, how do we pay somebody in Bitcoin because we've got some sort of Trojan horse or ransomware, all right? Do it now. The website is iTex USA. That's iTex with an S, USA.com, or 870-336-9778. Folks, That's all the time that we have for today. My name is Paul Harrell. I hope you've enjoyed the program. Mountain Talk 97, you guys have one more hour coming your way next. The rest of you, Arkansas, be safe.
CBS News.